Hello. Okay, there we go. Yeah, can you hear me? All good?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, we are back. How about you go ahead and introduce yourself?
It's Eric Blanchard from Toronto. Use the name Deleptual for publishing stuff. We had a team of 5.5 people-ish, myself doing the programming. We have two very talented 3D modelers, Liam and Jared. Sorry, Jared and Patrick. And then Liam is our animator. And we have a new sound guy we picked up, Raph. And then we have a voice actor that does some work with us from Montreal.
So what's the total count on your team members?
Like 6, like between 4 and 6.
Wow. All right. Well, yeah. So unfortunately, the UI is ever so slightly cut off here, but I'm going to do my best nonetheless to show off the game. So can you tell me a bit about your role in the project?
Yeah. So each time we do a game jam, this is our third one. We kind of have a game director, creative lead kind of thing. So I took this one. Basically, as soon as the jam theme got announced, we brainstorm ideas. There's only two of us online at the time. So it was Patrick, one of the modelers, and I. We just kind of threw out some ideas. People kind of joined in. And this is the one that we went with, which was kind of like I guess as a programmer, it made the most sense to me is you're setting up all these things and then you're just activating it and it's out of your control from there. The original design, the original idea was more to have the level interacting with you a lot as your robot like ran through it. But obviously with game jam stuff, it doesn't always work out.
Right. Did you ever do any programming with Lego NXT robots?
I actually did like probably 15 years ago. I think it was called Lego Mindstorm at the time.
Oh, yeah. First generation.
Yeah. This bringing back memories.
Well, I did a fair bit of programming with the NXT, the second generation Lego Mindstorms at a summer camp that I used to work at. So I'm somewhat familiar with the idea of feeding instructions to a robot like one at a time for it to then execute. And I wasn't sure if that might have been an inspiration behind this game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Hard to tell where all of like those buried deep in your past kind of come out.
All right. Well, let's see if I can get this successfully. Oh no, I did it too early. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, one of the most common requested things was undo or like a reset. So when you did die or you made a mistake, you don't have to like watch it play through.
Oh.
The UI that you can't see on when you're in full screen, you can actually click off the controls so that if you do make a mistake and you're aware of it, you can go back.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of the fact that my monitor is 1280 by 800. But for my part, I can just barely see the UI that you're describing along the top of the screen, but I realize it's not visible on the stream. So it is there, and if anyone wants to go and try it out, yes, as you just described it, it does make the game much easier to play through. Can you describe a bit how it was that you settled on this idea for the game jam?
Yeah, so normally we kind of take between 10 to 30 minutes of kind of messing around with ideas to see what we land on. We had a couple other ones. The game of life was something that I've always kind of wanted to do, but I'm never good at explaining it to the non-programmer, so it didn't really grab a hold. The modelers had some cool ideas too, but this just kind of ended being the one that we went with.
I have no idea if I've done this correctly, but yeah, I guess what was the development process for actually putting the game together?
So this is our third game jam. We started 2-3 months ago, and we kind of do one a month now. So we'll be doing one next month as well. So kind of the process for us is we brainstorm an idea. I start coding pretty much like right away to get something that's playable, like an iterative loop done like as fast as possible. The modelers and the animator will start working on what they want it to look like. So they have a lot of like back and forth. They throw up models inside our Discord channel and they chat about what they like, what they don't like. We can all look at that. And then from there, the modeler will start making stuff. I'll start making like some prototype. And once we have a rig, the animator just goes to work. And this time we tried keeping an asset list for our sound engineer, so we could just throw out like sounds and music that we needed. And for the voice actor, he kind of like pops in for like 5 minutes of like a text like, hey, we have all this stuff. And then he like a few hours later will have a Google Drive with all the lines to basically throw in.
Wow. So it sounds like you guys have it down to a science.
This one, like we kind of like iterate on like what works and what doesn't work. We actually do like after every game jam we kind of do like a post-mortem, but like what went well, what didn't go well. And so we've been trying to eliminate the things that haven't gone well. It's like scoping is probably the thing that we're the worst at. And so this is, probably the best finished product that we've had so far. The other ones are just, we try and get way too much in.
Yeah, as has been mentioned on stream several times today, like scope is your first hurdle, always is for every game development team, whether it's a jam or not. Then it's somewhere between difficulty tuning and tutorialization. But,
yeah, 100%.
You managed to crack the most important hurdle, which is having a game done and playable. But to that end, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Oh, all I was going to ask is my next question here, which is to get the game done in time, was there any particular like hacks or shortcuts that you needed in order to get the game finished? Stuff that you wouldn't do in a production title?
Yeah, the code is a disaster. We had because it's just me programming. I don't. If I had another programmer with me, I would probably be much cleaner about what I'm doing, because I know somebody else has to read it. But because it's just me, I kind of go wild and I keep track of where everything is in my head more than correct script. And so what that does lead, though, is as it goes on, by the end, it's really hard to change simple things because it's very like spaghetti-ish. So some of the things that we did have to, like the dirty hacks, are a lot of the stuff is hard coded. So normally my MO is get it in, get it working, and then go back and kind of fix it if I need to. And so because of that, though, there's some stuff that's just awful, like there's like animation timers and a bunch of different stuff that was like hard to figure out, which is also why you see there's like a bunch of delay like between the pauses there, between steps, which is another common complaint, is that it takes too long once you're going through. So we fix that now. But just mostly it's hard code stuff. There's no object pooling. So all of these things are created and destroyed all the time, which leads to some people having some huge performance problems. We stuffed in all of the post-processing was done about an hour and a half before submission. So we didn't like test it. And so another big performance loss is that we have a scene being loaded additively with like hundreds of gears slowly turning that we didn't test. And like a fog volume that we didn't test. So it's much snappier when you're running it on desktop, which is how we test it.
Right. Well, I'm about to find out how this jump works if I've miscalculated. Jump to here, then I want to go forward one, then turn, then down. At least because of the nature of the game, I can it's easier for me to talk and play at the same time, because I can take my mind, give myself the time to make my decisions and then talk while the character's running through. So, anyway, were there any features that you needed to cut or change in order to get the game done on time?
Yeah, we had a build that was building at like 2:20 p.m. that we were hoping would have a gate. We had like a level build for it too that had like a switch and then a gate that would open up. But then when we tried it out, we were like, this is like the last time it'll take like 20 minutes and get uploaded. And it just didn't work, right? So we had to cut it in a couple levels, which kind of sucked because like there's not a ton of content. There's only like 6 levels right now. So that was like one of the things we cut. We had like code for a pusher. It was like the first thing that we planned to do, and then we just never got around to doing it. So we had to push that, get rid of that. And then there's also the third thing was a simulate. So there's actually even a button space for it, I think, on the main one there, of where you'd be able to like watch the levels, what stuff happened, and you'd be able to like run through it. But we ended up having no obstacles that required timing. And we never finished the simulate function either. Yeah, the little empty gap. There's also, we wanted to do animations. All those tiles that have the controls on them have like wires and cables underneath them that we were planning on having exposed. And then when you got the new controls, it would like slam down on top of it or something, but we got to that.
Yeah. I seem to have landed on this platform and now I'm just stuck here. Is there something I should be?
So that's another thing. I forgot to check. When you hit the shocker, it eliminates your next action. And obviously I didn't check to see if there's any actions to eliminate. Luckily, you can skip between levels by pressing the number. So I think if you just press like 5, it'll reload, or 4 or 5. I don't know which level it is. So if above the keyboard on the number line there, you should just be able to click a number and it should reset.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, now I had cleared this one.
So you need to skip to the next one then.
Cool. Well, I think that's uh-oh. Uh-oh. You were mentioning something about additive scene loading?
Uh-oh. Well, on the bright side, you can refresh and then just pop to the level and it should be okay.
It looks like it managed to successfully unload both scenes, though.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Nope, never mind. I think I have 3 robots now. Well, I think this is a fantastic example of the kind of stuff that can go wrong during game jam, game dev. Which is, it's always one of the things that I find fascinating is that these kinds of issues crop up all the time. Like if a AAA game ever comes out, well, not that it really does anymore, but in the good old days when AAA games would come out and they were meant to last without the ability for developers to go in and submit electronic patches, there is a mind-boggling amount of QA that went into these things to solve those issues so that they were never going out to the general public. I think I remember hearing something about the fact that Nintendo would dedicate an entire half of a year just towards polish and bug fixing before a game shipped.
Way more than the 10 minutes we allocate.
Well, yeah, those are certainly one of the time-consuming things that you don't always have time for. And no big deal. I will just refresh the page here and I'm sure it'll be just fine. But in the meantime, while I get that going, I'm going to throw out the call to chat. If there's anyone who wants to ask any questions, please submit them now. And in the meantime, could you tell me what are your plans for the game, if you have any, going forward?
Yeah, we chatted a couple nights ago. The team, we just got on Discord, and I think we're going to try and probably release this as a mobile game. So we're tightening up we did a bunch of fixes already. So we tighten up the animation. I spent today building a level editor. So we'll be going through some of that. And then I think mobile is probably where we'll release. Oh no. Oh yeah. So if you're going to load the levels, it's usually, I've only tested it when the UI pops down and then back up. That's probably the best time to click with the level load. Okay.
Cause, I just started the game and it did that. I didn't press any buttons So I think I've found a ghost in the shell.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm sure continue building it.
Good. You're going to continue to build it. Are there any features or things you're going to tweak?
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. I think if we released a mobile, the bottom UI that one of the modelers threw together, it's going to have to change. There's a ton of making this a usable UI experience. And also, some of the most detailed parts of the game are probably the robot and a lot of the things that are actually really hard to see, the power-ups, the batteries are, because we had to scale them down because of the animation on them, are really hard to see how much detail went into them, which kind of is too bad. So I think we might have to do some camera tricks and stuff to maybe zoom in when you're moving around or something. It's just because we end up having to scale it down so far. Besides that, a level editor, we talked about maybe doing some multiplayer stuff or having a second robot. And so you'd maybe program 2 robots at a time to do different stuff and activate switches and stuff. So I think there's a lot of design space here.
Yeah. I can imagine something like that, controlling 2 robots, perhaps even with the same input command line. So you have to make moves that would be fine for one robot, but not the other. So you have to make turn in directions that are going to ensure that they both end up going safe along safe paths.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Well, we do have a question from the chat, but I think it's one you already partially answered. You were able to get it running smooth on the desktop because you were able to fix up some of the stuff that the additive scene loading was causing slowdowns. Was there anything else, like other than the fact that stuff just generally runs better on desktop? Is there anything else that you feel contributes to that?
Well, I think it's just generally that our desktop runs faster. I'm actually not. I haven't looked into why yet. If I had to guess, I'd probably say it's the object pooling. Like we're creating a ton of objects, playing a ton of sound, and doing no cleanup besides what like Unity's GC does already.
Yeah.
So it's like the audio is also awesome for this game. The voice acting and the engineer are very talented. But I did no control. Like when the tiles all fall in, you have like 25 to 30 sounds playing like on a coroutine. So it creates like it grabs 30 objects basically, or it creates them if they're not available. So there's a ton of stuff and then while it's creating the 30 plus objects that fall down and then destroying the prior 30. So there's just a ton of lack of optimization. Hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. That's pretty typical. Well, we have a little bit of extra time at the end here. So is there any other particular anecdotes or things you want to share might be interesting about the game?
We could talk a little bit about like our process at the end. That we have often our animator does a ton of cool animations that don't get into the games, or the modelers that make really cool stuff that don't get in. So they're kind of branching out to do different stuff, which is really exciting, like the particle effects and like a little bit more of the coding, like setting up the animator, the animation controller inside of Unity to take the load off the coder. Besides that, I don't know, it was fun. Our animator is very talented, but a bit of a diva, but fun to work with.
All right. I think you mentioned earlier how you have like a post-mortem after every game jam. Could you get into a bit of what that post-mortem looked like this particular time? What you feel like you can improve on going forward?
So we create this. We each create like a document full of the stuff that we thought went well, what we want to do going forward, game-specific stuff or jam-specific stuff. And some of that's like workflow based. So it'll be like, do we use Trello? Like we've used Trello in the past, but this time we just use like a Google sheet. But maybe we'll go back to Trello. We talk about like where our loss is. So in the prior game jams, we had a ton of assets that were created, but we never get it put in because I'm kind of the bottleneck as the person that uses Unity and the coder.
Yeah.
So we talked about maybe bringing in like building skills of the other people that can do that, like can take control of their own like sound and stuff. Or models inside of Unity, or bringing on like a second developer. So it's kind of like stuff like that. And then the things that went really well is like the asset tracking sheet, like we started to use, but we need to like refine part of it. We communicated a lot. So like we're all on Discord on calls pretty much constantly. For this one, some of the things we realized we need to do is better testing.
Yeah.
Some of the others, like I play the game constantly as like the developer, like running it every like 5-10 minutes. But the animator, I don't think played it once. He saw just like the web version. I think the same with our sound engineer. So they just have no idea like what the actual finished product is unless they're watching one of us stream it, which is too bad. So part of it is like setting aside like a time, like maybe after the 4-hour mark of, hey, like we're all going to get together, take a look at what we have so far, and go.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I would say I'm not sure, like you can absolutely bring another developer onto the project. And I think that that's a great idea for developing larger scale games. But I think for a game jam, you might actually want to consider going the other direction of like not just bringing additional developers onto the project, but perhaps scaling down the amount of art that the team is putting out. Because I feel like the more chefs you have putting their fingers in the pie, the communication becomes your bottleneck, and the more people you have to communicate and get on the same page as each other within the time constraint of a game jam, it might be just more prudent to limit the team size instead of trying to grow it even larger. But that's just my observation.
A really good point. One of the other things that I guess I didn't mention that we're trying to do too is building tools for the artists to also do like level design mostly. Because of my poor choices in level designing super early, it was basically just all coded. So in the other game jams we've done, we've had it much more like they would just create prefabs to the levels, and it was much easier because like they can, when we have all the assets made, they can flip over to doing content creation for that kind of stuff. So it's about, I think it's also for us is making sure that we have like tooling for people to do the right stuff, which can sometimes be hard in a game jam.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Absolutely. Well, as we get to wrapping things up for now, I've pulled the team's credits up on the screen so everyone can see. But is there anyone else that you want to give a shout out to? Any other social media accounts that you want to mention?
Oh, maybe I'll throw Instagram in the chat if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And for my part,
besides that, right.
Just for my part, as always, I'm including the link to the Itchio Jam page so that everyone can try the game out for themselves. And yes, do absolutely run it in full screen so that you have the control row along the top.
Yeah, and thank you so much for setting this up. This was super cool. I watched pretty much the entire day and all the other devs that were going on. There's a lot of really interesting information.
Yeah,
hopefully
absolutely.
we